With political party primaries concluded and petitions ongoing at various camps, the country is abuzz with these two words: independent candidates. Many of those who've been kicked out of the race during the primaries now say they'll be vying independently.
Sisi tutatafuta independent candidate na sisi tutaenda mpaka kwa debe ili watu wa Uasin Gishu wapate nafasi ya kupiga kura na waamue nani atakuwa gavana wao.
2017 could see the highest number of candidates taking on the ballot without the backing of a political party. In fact, the registrar says that more than 2,000 politicians have applied to be registered as independent candidates. But is losing the primaries a good enough motivation to go at it alone? And just what exactly are the parameters for vying independently? Up next on the Roundtable with Asha Mwilu.
Good evening and welcome to the Roundtable. You've just caught us in the middle of dinner. Tonight we are discussing the independent candidates, and we have four gentlemen. One is on his way, Honorable Peter Weru of Madeira constituency. We've just heard that he's going independent, but we have the person who was the youngest MP in 2013, at 26 years old, ran as an independent, Gatobu Kinoti. Yeah, your name is like a tongue twister. But thanks for joining us. That's Buri MP. And we have Julius Owino, or we call you? Maji, who's vying for Embakasi MCA as an independent candidate. Yes. And of course we have our legal expert here, constitutional lawyer George Kithi. Thanks for joining me for this dinner. Yeah. So let's go to Julius, because he's the new kid on the block. Why politics, Maji? We know you as a musician.
I would quickly say not politics. I would say leadership. My policy is leadership betters politics. And mine is different. I've never thought of, just like you're surprised.
Yeah.
I was called from my house in February, 20-something. 2nd or 6th, yeah.
2017.
Yeah, 2017.
Right.
Yeah, others you'd have known by now. I was called from my house, I refused.
You were called by whom?
People, especially youth.
Okay.
So what I did first is walk around and to find out why is it. They told me we'll put in anyone. We are tired, but we'd rather you understand us. We know what you're doing and what you've done.
So you decided to vie for Embakasi Ward?
Ward, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
As an independent candidate?
Independent candidate.
Why as an independent candidate?
Independent because, one, because of how it came about. I never thought of it, and they came to my house thrice. The third time they sent my in-law brother. We are very close. So they sent him, convinced him to come because we are tired.
All right.
Especially the youth, they were tired. So I walked around. I didn't decide. But when I moved around, I realized there was a vacuum or need for leadership. So then I came back, I told them, if it is leadership, well and good. If it is politics, I don't know politics.
So you think that politics, you link it to political parties and leadership to being an independent candidate? Is
Not
that
really.
the case?
I link independent mindset to leadership, but I link winning via political process to politics.
Right.
So you could still be independent, but you're politicking. But you can be a leader and not politicking, like tackling issues, solving solutions, not waiting to be elected. That's leadership.
Right.
But if you're doing it to be elected, that's politics. Again, my point.
Okay, I get it. Do you agree with that, Gatobu? I mean, you ran as an independent from the very beginning in 2013 when no one was really confident in being an independent candidate.
Sure.
Why did you decide that? Was it about leadership for you as well?
Thank you, Asha. I thank God for this opportunity. It's a great joy being at the round table.
Thank
you. My journey was so much similar to what Maji has said. I have a great passion for education and for community service. So I rose from a very humble background and did well in my studies. So when I was successful in my studies, I felt, as a way of thanking God and thanking the community that brought me up, I'd go back to the village as a volunteer teacher. So after university, I went back to the village as a volunteer teacher. And even before joining university, when I succeeded well in my KCSE, before joining university, I was still a volunteer teacher in the village. So after so many years of assisting children in their studies, late in 2012, the community approached me.
Same thing as Maji. George, how comes you've not been approached by these communities? Yeah, I'm just imagining like droves of people coming to your house.
Actually, mine was in the line of duty,
okay,
not in my house.
Oh, when you were a teacher?
Yeah. On one Sunday, I was attending an education function, the place called Ntuge in Bori. I was a chief guest. The community had organized a very big education day. And then my wife, back then my fiancée, she was also attending a church function at a place called Kamarai. So after the function, I joined her at the church. And then the youth came and told me, you've done a lot for this community for the last 7 years. You've helped so many children succeed through education. And now you've brought us a lady who is helping us in church service and so much. Why don't you become a leader? And it was a very difficult question to answer. And I told them, give me time to think over it and pray over it. That was
and
August.
That was in 2012?
2012 August.
In the run-up to the 2013 election?
Exactly.
So once people tell you, we want you to take the mantle and to vie to become our MP, how do you decide that I'm not going with a political party? Did you shop around for a political party?
That is what I was coming to. After 1 month of reflection and prayer and all that and consulting, I found if the community believes in what I've done for them, then they should believe in me, even in me being a leader. And I assisted them in education for 7 years. Then seen that their lives had changed. So I did not need a political party to come and explain the same to the people. So I firmly believed if the community was happy with what I'd done for them, I should stand up as a leader and defend my cause.
Right.
So I said I don't want my call to be diluted by a political party. I want to stand on the podium by myself, say what I've done, and say what I want to do for the people. I had my own manifesto of seven points. You know, the challenge we have with Kenyan politics is that we just move in political parties, just being tribal outfits, just being waves and euphorias. There's no clear definition of what a single political party in Kenya stands for. So I felt to avoid my vision being tampered with by political gimmicks, I just wanted to be independent, stand on my own manifesto, and defend my cause for the people. And if they loved me, then they'd vote me in. And indeed they did, because when the elections came, it was a landslide win. The person who came second to me, he was in a very big political party, and he was a distant second with about half of the number of votes that I had. And this time I'm running to be the governor for Meru, and I've said the same thing. I want to stand on my own.
Even before we get to that, I mean, hearing what the two gentlemen are saying, George, what do you think about, you know, they really seem to be, they don't have a lot of confidence in political parties. Would you say that's what the Constitution envisioned when we were creating this provision of going independent?
Put it this way, I like the fact that they took up challenges, especially as youth. That's very important. I have been approached, certainly, many times. I come from the school of thought that my contribution to society can be done as part of work.
Yes.
And certainly the commitment towards society need not be at a certain pedestal. You can still, within your 10 codes, still contribute.
Yes.
But this is how I look at it. Contribution to society at a micro level, at that low level, that makes sense. Because you see, as you climb up, as you influence the bigger society, as you deal with issues where you need a lot of policy making, you then need a certain forum. And
So
that has to be organized.
You need numbers. You need like a backing
yes,
of a political party.
You cannot, for instance, have run a presidential campaign without necessarily having an outfit which will legislate for you, which will then define your policy. It's an impossibility.
But I mean, for Kinoti, for instance, he wants to vie for governor. Does he need a political party?
And exactly,
for that?
that's why we're saying the challenges he's going to face will be obvious to him. The challenge will be this. As a governor, you then will rely on members of the county assembly from different political parties. Why would you rely on them to pass your policies? You must then have your own policy that is shaped and ideologize the policy to fit into the 10 posts, which then you lay out as the 7 point you say, or whatever principles or development agenda that you have in your manifesto.
Yes.
You cannot do that and rely on people who have been brought to the platform by other vehicles.
Other vehicles.
And that becomes an immediate challenge.
Do you think of that as a reality? I mean, let's say you're voted in as governor of Meru County.
Yeah.
As an independent candidate, how are you going to maneuver the politics, essentially?
Now, one thing I've found out, Asha, we may be very pessimistic about the politics of Kenya, but I want to assure you, deep within the hearts of Kenyans, deep within even the hearts of Kenyan leaders, they have a passion to do something right.
Right.
We may be compromised by the daily challenges along the way, but deep within, we want to do the right thing. The reason why I'm saying this is, as an independent candidate, so many political analysts thought I would be frustrated in Parliament. When I came in 2013, I was young, I was independent, I didn't have political connections, so they thought the big things I wanted to do for this country, I could not do them as independent. There's very little I could achieve. But even myself, I've been amazed on what I've been able to do for the last 4 years. In fact, in the year 2015, I was given the Mzalendo Award for the best performing MP in the area of education. The reason being, every motion or bill I move in Parliament,
Yes.
it's welcomed very well, and it's supported across board by independents. We are 4 of us. It's supported by Jubilee, by CORD. So I believe as a governor,
Yes.
it's very easy to push my agenda, so long as I'm pushing for the right thing. Because in my manifesto, this time I have 10 points. One of the points is that I want to involve the people in leading the county.
Public participation.
Exactly.
But that's already in the Constitution. So
Yeah.
anyone who becomes governor
It's
must...
actually
must
illegal not to do it.
It's illegal not to do it.
But-
I mean,
but
I think
no-
the main question is that are you aware of the realities that as you vie for governor as an independent, that there are certain challenges you might come across in that you'll have MCAs, people like Maji who might be coded, or they might be from Jubilee or the other parties that we know of. How are you going to lobby them? Because we've seen MCAs, and the power they have been quite a challenge for some governors. So how are you going to maneuver that?
First, about over 50% of MC aspirants in Meru currently are independent candidates.
Oh.
Second, even if the majority were to come from a particular political party, I believe as long as I'm pushing for the people's agenda.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, the Mwananchi of Kenya is the employer of the MCA, the governor, the member of parliament, the president, and everyone else.
Yes.
So I want to involve, as I've been doing in Bori as the member of parliament, we involve the public in shaping the development agenda of the county. Now, once the agenda has been shaped by the public, then the MCA will stand no chance of opposing it, unless he wants to do it at his own peril. So I want to use the people to drive the agenda, and that way we will even have, if the people drive the agenda,
Yes.
then even the MCAs who wanted to fight it, they will be forced to comply because the people are the employers.
So he has a lot of faith in the people. I think we'll come back to that. Maji,
Yes.
you sang Unbogable. We all remember that song. And it's kind of linked to one political party,
Which one?
ODM.
No.
If I think about Unbogable,
Yes, it is.
I
refuse.
George, am I being unfair to
Let me correct
Maji?
you. Let me correct you. It was music not done for political process. That's a fact.
Yes.
And by then, Unbogable, I want to correct this clearly. Unbogable is a song that took part in delivering Kenya.
That's 2002.
Yes. And the presidential candidate was Mwai Kibaki.
Right.
So let's have that right. Yeah, so I want to correct that. So that it is not, as much as Unbogable is an
and
English Luo word.
And the political party then was NAC, wasn't
Yes,
it?
it was
Yeah, it was
NAC.
NAC.
And NAC was a rainbow coalition.
Yeah.
And we did not sing a political song. We sang a song that showcased our frustration as individuals, Maji and Gidi Gidi.
Yeah.
We were frustrated as young youth in the ghetto, trying to make it, and there were systems in place not allowing us. So we sang for ourselves, and we didn't even know it would be a hit. We just said, this is the last thing we are doing. Gidi went to his college, I went to my business and called, and we said, this is it.
You know why I'm asking you that question, Maji?
Yeah.
It's because, like, as a common Mwananchi, ordinary Kenyan, if I hear Maji is vying and I remember Unbogable, I'm going to automatically link you to that movement back in 2002.
Yes.
And probably even trace it back to where we are and say what resonates. You know, we've just seen Pentagon relaunched with the NASA coalition. So are there people who perhaps feel like you're linked to a political party? They don't understand.
Rightfully so, I won't blame you. That's why I'm putting it clear.
Okay.
It was not a political song. The presidential candidate was Mwai Kibaki. The coalition was Rainbow. The country got together to deliver itself from a status quo that they felt it was long enough.
Yeah.
So I want to resonate with that energy as Maji and as a Kenyan.
So the movement, not the individuals.
Yes, the movement. It was a movement, but there was a Rainbow coalition that brought everybody, presumably against a presumed feeling or a status of living, of standards, and the need for change.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
I actually want us to just go back into history. People are wondering, what is this independent candidate? Where did it come from? Have we always been allowed to vie as independent candidates? So let's peel back the pages of our history books and find out, when did Kenya really allow candidates to vie independently? Although the concept of the independent candidate has existed in democracies like the US for hundreds of years, it's fairly new to the Kenyan electorate. After British rule, it was possible to vie as an independent, but that provision was scrapped in 1982 with the introduction of the one-party state. It was not until the 2010 constitution was promulgated that independent candidature was reintroduced in Kenya. In 2013, the first election under the 2010 constitution, vying as an independent was not as popular. History had carved out an important place for political parties, with parties solidifying their support base in the regions they were formed. It was perceived that candidates had a better chance at winning the election if they were backed by a popular party in the region they were vying. But a few politicians decided to go against the grain in 2013. A risk that paid off for some. Wesley Korir beat Joshua Kutuni to win the Cherangani seat. Patrick Musimba kicked Kalembe Ndile out of parliament and became the Kibwezi West MP. Gatobu Kinoti became the youngest MP in the 11th parliament when he won the Bori seat as an independent candidate, while John Serut clinched the Mount Elgon parliamentary seat. While less than 60 candidates ran as independents in 2013, this time round, they will be in the thousands. But will independent candidates get the attention of the Kenyan voter? And what impact will the independent candidate have on the Kenyan leadership?
But I saw you.
So, 2013, less than 100 people actually registered to be independent candidates. 2017, we're hearing 2,000. A number like 2,000 registrar has received that many applications. George, why do you think there's so much interest in this right now, as opposed to 2013?
I think it's a combination of history and also the fact that the movement of and development of law so far.
Yes.
Being that one is history has shown that political parties are not independent in this country. They tribal outfits are beholden to tribal chieftains. So that if you mention a certain political party, any political party, the region becomes important, the leader becomes important, and therefore it is recognized tribally. So that there's a lot of ethnicity and unfairness in tribal, in political parties. Right from the last general election to these elections, if you look at the problems we had last election, we had many petitions in political parties on account of people who have been disenfranchised. Luckily for that time, people then would move from one political party to another on account of the fact that, you see, they still...
party hopping.
Yes, because they need the democratic space upon which to express themselves. And the political rights need to be enhanced with that environment. But in order to strengthen political party democracy, we did put up a law prohibiting people from moving from one political
jump
party
from one party to the
the other.
other.
That's party hopping.
Yeah.
When we did that, it was really defeatist, because ultimately,
Yes.
what happens is there's a lot of let me put it this way: ownership in political parties, and people around these kings in political parties. Ultimately, when people are denied their rights in political parties, they have to move away.
But I mean, and that's actually a point I wanted to bring up, that a lot of the candidates we are now hearing talking about going independent are people who lost at the primaries level, or they feel like they are aggrieved.
That is one. The other group is that they know when they move there, they'll face that stiff competition either way. They don't have the command structure of the parties. They're not popular, they're not influential, and therefore they would rather move with the independents.
I mean, I'm really sad that Honorable Weru hasn't arrived, because he is one of the candidates who just opted not to go to the primaries, even though he was Jubilee affiliated. Does that make you uncomfortable, Gatobu, when you think about candidates who, right now, when they've lost at primaries, or they feel like they're not going to win at primaries, that's when they decided to go independent, while you, from the onset, declared that you're an independent candidate?
Yeah, as a leader, I think it's going to have a stand. You should not, because all along, if you're a member of a political party, you're able to understand how the structures of the party work and how the key leaders in the political party run their systems. So you can be able to predict whether there will be a free and fair nomination or not. So I don't find it wise to have going for independent as a plan B. I think it should be the first option. But mistakes do happen. No one can be perfect. You may be a good leader, but you may not predict errors that may happen. So even people who have lost in the primaries and feel have lost unfairly and want to go as independents, I think that's a welcome move.
That's a very diplomatic answer, but I'm seeing Majimaji is just like, no.
Okay. But I think I started by saying it would be wise for a leader to have a stand. Like me, in 2013, I didn't go to any nomination process. I've never been a member of any political party.
And therefore it was cheap, isn't it?
Sorry?
And therefore it was cheap for you?
No, it's very difficult actually, because once you're a member of a political party, the party gives you a lot of campaign materials. It even gives you actual finances.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of money.
Does it
I
make
think it depends on the political party. The political party don't fund.
Does it make a difference?
It makes a very big difference.
Maybe parties that are strong in your region, they fund
Actually,
more.
I know of some of my colleagues who have funded even up to the tune of 20 million.
What?
Without mentioning names.
Yeah.
And,
you can mention, we're just having dinner.
And so as an independent, I would have loved, even this time, if I went for a party nomination, I'm sure I would have very good chances of winning.
Where are you getting the money then? That's the question.
Now,
where do you get the money to campaign as an independent?
Now, it goes back to the point I raised at the beginning, that if a community believes, because one of the things that made me love community service is the kind of love I saw from the community that brought me up. Even when I was going to the University of Nairobi, after I did well in my KCSE, the community did for me a very big celebration, and they gave me donations. My parents could have paid my fees, but the community found it wise to do for me a celebration and give me gifts in form of finances that were enough to pay my fees for the entire 4 years.
But I think that happens to a lot of Kenyans. I mean, you get contributions to go to school, but to become governor?
No, that's I'm saying something. If the community invested in me, and I felt as a way of giving it back to the community, I should be a volunteer teacher.
Yes.
Why should not the same community invest in me through their own money and votes to become a leader and do something for them?
Is that now that you're lobbying? Are you lobbying to the Wananchi now?
Exactly.
Like, give me your money.
Even in 2013, a very big chunk of my campaigns were financed by the people. And you'll be shocked the kind of money they were giving. Not the millions, the 100 shillings, 200, 1,000, especially the youth. They put in their money in my campaigns, and they've gained in a very big way.
Yes.
For the last 4 years, they've really reaped the fruits of what they invested in me.
Maji, how are you doing it?
Okay, it's difficult, but I would like to go back, and thank you. I'd like to define, as per my definition of an independent candidate. Number one, independence is not opportunistic. So anybody who has put on a coat on a sunny day and is sweating already knew it was hot. Yeah? So according to me, an independent candidate or independence is not opportunistic. Like, now I've not gotten this, let me try this. Yeah? An independent candidate is more of a leader. If we go back in times, the elders, the leaders who used to solve even cases of chickens and all that, it's in the modern times now we are solving real issues.
Yeah.
So independent candidate is a leader, more of solution-oriented, and it is not opportunistic because you are creative. You can bring solutions without necessarily believing in party.
But you're
organs.
saying that if you're not an independent candidate, you're not ideally a community leader as we know it.
No, if you're an independent candidate, you are a leader by maybe talent or by everything. But now, you can move it a step forward to try and solve it for a community, to lead a community. And most cases, you'll find a real independent candidate has been inspired by people. Most of them would have never thought of politics. But if they want to maintain the same thought, naturally they'll say, I want to go independent.
But someone can argue that if you got this call from the people in February, you've only been in the game 2 months.
Yes.
You know, maybe a seasoned politician will be like, Majimaji doesn't know what he's talking about because he hasn't really felt the heat of the campaign.
Yes, that happens. But you see now the difference between an independent candidate and them is you're solution-oriented. Like he's inspiring me. He already has education programs. I've already sent about 80 people to college, technical courses already. I'm already launching another 80. Because when I walk around, people are saying jobs, jobs, jobs.
Yeah.
Then you pack it and you bring solutions. A politician will wait. Nikingia ofi. Yeah. I think independent is not about taking a risk. It's not a risk. It's a call. It's more of a leadership call.
And do you think you're advantaged because people already know you? When you say Maji, especially because you're running in a really small community as opposed to someone vying maybe for the governorship, then...
No, I am not.
Then you're popular. So people will say, I know him, I can give him my vote because, you know, I listen to him every morning on the radio. Yeah. You already have that clout.
That works, but again, when you realize, when you start walking around, it's a different ball game. You live in here, echoes like, I've not met him. People want to meet you, and they even say, wacha tusikie sera zake. As much as they know you, they want to listen and believe. And especially if you are an independent candidate, they want to give you more attention to understand why are you taking this huge risk according to them.
Yes.
But it is not a risk. It is what Kenya needs. I don't know if it's up to the higher level, but this is what Kenya needs on the lower level. Because all these big positions, president and governor, they look for money and funds. They will not have the time to work on the ground. These people on the ground need to know someone who, where they sleep and wake up, he understands. Maybe not perfect, but he understands their problem.
Yeah.
So on the ground level, independent candidates are necessary. And if it could be adapted, it better be. And if the leaders up there can adapt, apa chini tusimess nayo.
And then
look at it this way.
There's something I wanted to rectify.
Yes, Katobu.
Even as an independent candidate, personally I'm not opposed to people being in political parties. The only thing I would wish is that if someone can belong to a political party for a reason. For instance, me, I'm independent, and even in 2013 I'm independent, but I'm supporting the election of the president, and I'm giving that with reasons. Because much of what I've been able to achieve in Bore has been courtesy of the president, at the personal level. Actually, even came from my wedding in Bore and promised a road. It's called Kisima Roire. It's 50 kilometers in length.
Who promised that?
The president himself.
All right.
And now it's
in
being
your constituency.
Exactly.
You
50 kilometers
don't
of
think
tarmac.
voters would translate that to being Jubilee affiliated?
I would call it.
Unfortunately, yes.
The reason what I was driving to is, if I say I'm independent, I should give reasons tangible enough for the voter. If I say I'm supporting the president, as I'm doing, I give a list of 15 points why I'm telling the people of Bore and Meru to vote for the president. It's not just a wave. So
but do they understand that difference when you talk to the voters?
They do.
Do they know
because
that you're independent of the president's party?
They give me about 50% of their vote, and they give the president 90% of the vote for president, because I really lobbied for his election. And I was giving with reasons. That time I even didn't know him, but I was giving reasons and saying, this man, when he was the Minister for Finance, he brought the economic stimulus, which gave Bori the largest social hall we have in the entire county. So I had reasons. Now I'm saying I'm running as independent governor, but I'm requesting you, the people of Meru, to vote for the president, because in my constituency, he has employed 1,000 youths through the NYS.
Right.
He has done 50 kilometers of tarmac. He has built for us a children's home. It's called Upendo. He has given high-profile jobs from my constituency in his government. So I would be happy to see people being in political parties, but giving reasons why they're in those political parties.
You see, it's the same thing. And I'm beginning to appreciate that I think independence, and with utmost due respect, is a fallacy. This way, that whichever way you approach it, you still come to the same issue that you have to rely on other people sponsored by political parties. So the independence is about you getting the environment upon which you can get into power.
Yes.
But in the sense of service delivery, you certainly must cooperate with political parties and in fact adopt the agenda set out by either party. Put it this way, if my good friend here today supported in a Jubilee dominant area, he supported ODM, that may affect him.
Yeah.
If similarly he supported an ODM or a Jubilee candidate for presidential in an area that is dominant in one way or another, he will still be affected by the politics of the day.
And do
So
you think that's one of the reasons why we're not getting people coming out to declare definitively that I'm an independent candidate? That's been the problem.
You see, ultimately what will happen,
Yes.
just let me finish. Ultimately what will happen is you will declare as independent, obviously because you will enjoy certain trappings by being that independent, but beholden, ultimately you'll have to say who you support as presidential candidate. If you do so, you'll have to wait.
Okay.
Ultimately, whichever way you put it, you will be taken to be affiliated to a certain presidential candidate, depending on the environment in which you operate and how you
Can I interject? Can I interject? I think Kinoti was okay. For this discussion, what he didn't put okay is that he worked with the presidency to deliver development.
Yes.
Then over the presidency, you can put a personality. So an independent candidate should say, I will work with the office. So if the office of a governor, for example, if Nairobi it is Kidero,
Yes.
I would want Kidero to bring ABCD to my ward.
Yes.
And I will tell him I've sat with my committee and the people on the ground and the leaders, they've said their priority is security. Their priority is drainage,
Yes.
sewage and infrastructure. And to the youth, they want jobs. Can we talk with the industries around? As a governor, call shots. Yeah, that one I'm working with the office. But if I put a personality,
I get your point.
then I move to party.
I get your point, Maji.
So
Maji.
he can still do the roads,
Yes.
even with the presidency.
I get it. We'll
get
come
my
back and talk about that in detail. But for now, let's take a short commercial break. This is a roundtable with Asha Mwilu. See you in a few minutes.